All right, so the last thing that we're going to go over today is molecular compounds. This can be found on page 17, the molecular compounds formula writing and naming page, and there's some more at the end of your booklet that you guys can check out. Molecular and covalent naming is the easy one. It's pretty straightforward, and it works when you are using a negative ion, an element with a negative ion charge, and another element with a negative ion charge. So instead of having the positive even out the negative and neutralize, they're going to settle for sharing their electrons. So there is no transfer or giving and taking of electrons, it's a shared electron. So examples of that would be number 8, when you use iodine and bromine together. So we're going to go over how to name these things. You won't be expected to be able to figure out how they would fit together. I'll never give you iodine and bromine and have you tell me how they fit together, because they don't really work like that. So they can kind of fit together in tons and tons of different ways. So you'll always be given either this and you'll have to name it, or you'll be given the name and you'll have to give me the chemical formula for it. So you just have to be able to identify it, which is a little bit less pressure. If we're using iodine and bromine together, and we're saying that there's one atom of each, when we name these things, the first word, just like in ionic naming, is just iodine. But we put in how many of the second element there is ahead of time. And we use prefixes, and those prefixes can be found in here, right beside your polyatomic ions that you used before. So you have a list of prefixes to tell you what the numbers are and what each of the numbers means. So if this is the case, every time that we're going around, we just have to identify how much of each there is using the prefixes. For example, if this was I2Br, so let's just do that together, then we would have to put in a prefix in here. We don't put in a prefix if there's just one for the first one, because it's always going to be implied that it's mono unless otherwise specified. So if this is the case, this would be di-iodine, mono, bromide. And we still keep our IDE endings just like we did with ionic naming. So if we're using boron and fluorine, and there's 3 fluorines, that 3 gets accounted for in the trifluoride. So the prefix goes with whatever element that the number goes with, and then it just follows down. The last tip that I can advise you on is when you find that there's 2 O's together, or an A and an O, they don't like those to go together. So we just kind of blend the whole word together. If that was the case for numbers, like number 7, where they have chlorine and oxygen, and they have 1 chlorine and 2 oxygens, 1 oxygen, then your answer is dichlorine monoxide. We don't put dichlorine monooxide. The same thing would be if this were ClO9, and we had an A ending, because number 9 is nona. If you look on your prefixes, we would put, oh, that's why. We would put chlorine non-oxide, not nona oxide. Okay? So I hope you guys find that helpful.